And I start worrying about my son. I thought in Cuba I would have my cell phone because I got the chip for it and I paid the extra money for it. And it didn't work. As soon as I landed, I tried to get hooked up with this impresso thing. It's called the queen of communications there. And it didn't work. So right away I started to panic. Went on the internet is like slow, no connection. So my heart started to beat. The more my heart started to beat, the more I started to imagine the worst. I started to think my dogs were dead. He didn't give them water. Because he doesn't give water to his gecko. Right? I'm always telling him, water your gecko, give him some water. Right?
Not
It goes 3 weeks without water.
Randall can't bark at him though.
No, but Magic and Music, my two dogs, right, they know how to bark at me. You're right, they know how to bark at me, but he might be out. I'm thinking, he's out with his friends, he forgot to feed them, they're starving, they're dead. They died of thirst. So now I'm like reading it, are they dead? And then the next thing was, okay, maybe he's hurt. Or maybe he's playing his music too loud and my neighbors are now complaining. You know, and I'm not there to like take the complaints. And all these crazy things started to go through my head, and so finally I made a phone call to him from my hotel room. And for 6 minutes, it cost me $13 to call him. All because of anxiety. That $13 I could have went and bought more trinkets with. You know? And I'm like, that $13 could have went a long way. But I did it, and as soon as he answers the phone, and God is good, because he was in the underground and he was putting his e-bike away. Usually in the underground, he doesn't get reception. So God was so good that I was able to get through. Because my anxiety would have went up a whole other level if I didn't get through. His answer machine was coming on in the first ring. I probably would have spent $300 calling that boy and then end up, where are you? And you know what I mean? So what happened was, he answers the phone and he's like, hello? Private caller came in, right? And I'm like, hi T, is everything okay? Yeah, everything's good. The ladies, my dogs, they're girls. So he says, the ladies are fed, they're okay, they're happy. I'm like, okay, good. And I'm like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm just in the underground. All of a sudden the phone starts cutting out. And I'm like, get into a good area, go back into it. And I'm trying to yell, you can't hear me. So he goes into the good area automatically. You know, and right away I start realizing I'm being moody because of my anxiety. And he can hear it in me, he can hear me. And I'm like, is everything all right? Are you playing your music too loud? I'm not playing any music, Mommy told me not to. And here I start to actually, what's the word, doubt him. And that he's gonna go against my rules at home because of my own insecurity, my anxiety. And I became so mean. I didn't yell at him, I didn't scream at him. I was really happy that God gave me the opportunity to speak to him in the underground. That we cannot allow our fear to dictate our outcome. When we start feeling anxiety, we start changing our thought pattern. We start changing our feelings, and then our actions start to reciprocate that fear. And then everything changes. And we can actually change our destiny by behaving with anxiety. We have to look at that anxiety, filter through it. Anxiety is what created that future. Like what you said earlier, Alyssa, what you put out to the universe is what comes back. Right? And then I'm on the plane and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm bringing home 2 bottles of rum, not 1. Right? And then turbulence starts happening on the plane. I'm like, great, now I'm gonna die. So, right? All this anxiety when I'm supposed to be enjoying the last bit of my trip and coming home to my family and my loved ones. And I was like, this is so unnecessary. So I really thought to myself, how many people allow anxiety to rule their everyday life? In your day, if you start worrying about finances, if you start worrying about grades in school, or boyfriends, and you start worrying about what other people are saying and doing behind our back and stuff of that nature, or family and their health and stuff of that nature, or you're going to be moving soon, Autumn, downtown Toronto, where are you going to move, and all these different things that we worry about, we have to say, what is the fear about? Is this fear something that is telling me something, or am I just abusing myself? And I said to her, like, I was only 19 at the time. And I said to her, and she's like, I feel like I'm gonna die. And it just hit her like that. And she said, oh my God, I'm gonna die. And she felt like she was just gonna pass out. And I was like, relax, you're not gonna die. And if you do, it's okay. Like, what's the worst, right? What happened? The worst is dying's not so bad, right? And she was like, just don't. And she was like, in the moment. And so I was trying to explain to her, but now, years later, I think what I would have said to her if I had the knowledge that I have now is just breathe, get through it. What that is, most people who have anxiety, those panic attack anxieties, are most people who aren't doing anything with their time. And they need to do something at that moment with their time. They need to follow their gut. Like if their gut says they have to start a business, or they have to start writing a book, or they have to start reading, or they have to go out for a walk. They have to do something with their time at that moment. What's happening is the spirit is getting like tangled up inside, and it's just mumble-jumbled inside, and it's bored. And it's just feeling like, do something with me. I gotta do something. Like, I got to live. I want to explore. I'm here to be alive. And the spirit wants to survive, but the body is keeping it smothered. And that's what I always say to people who are having anxiety attacks. I tell them, get up and do something. Don't sit there in the midst of it and say, oh, I'm having this attack, I need medication. Nope, the medication will stop it. For the moment, the medication will stop it, maybe for a week or whatever, but the medication will have a negative impact months later, years later.
Not like anxiety, because I've felt real anxiety where it's like debilitating, right? And how do you, okay, like I have my own ways of managing whatever, or if it's not even really an issue anymore. I think usually like when you kind of grow through something and you learn about yourself or your situation, or you improve certain things. But isn't anxiety is a human emotion that is necessary in a sense, I guess, right? Because it gets you going, gets you moving, gets you up. But what happens when it starts to like overcome a person's life, where like I have clients who have anxiety attacks when they step out of their house?
So if somebody is having a lot of anxiety, let's say I have a friend who has that phobia where they're afraid to go outside. I used to be in a band with him, okay, and he would not ever go outside, and he had to take some medication in order to even step outside. And it was because he was too comfortable doing nothing all the time. He had to challenge himself. It's about challenging yourself. It means that the spirit inside them is just not being challenged. So how do they get out of it? Again, changing their environment, challenging themselves constantly, every single day. They're afraid to step outside? Well, step outside. Continue to challenge yourself. And if they don't, then that will overcome them even more and more.
Like, like when people say to me, I think like I'm having an anxiety attack or a panic attack, I'll say, it's okay. You know, imagine it like a cloud, like floating by. It's gonna pass. It's just, you know, your body's reaction really to what's going on, and almost like some people will even shake from a panic attack or an anxiety attack.
Because it is very real. It's
a physiological thing. So
their brain is so powerful. Their thought is so powerful. That's why thoughts bring into our reality. Every thought turns into a feeling, turns into an action. So what's happening is they are thinking something at that moment that is bringing that into their feeling. And even at the moment, if they're not thinking anything, they are probably not thinking anything good. And all the time we have to have positive thoughts. All the time we have to have positive actions, positive feelings, reinforce it all the time. People who are usually anxious are people who are feeling like they are not really getting anywhere in life. They're unhappy with their life. They're unhappy with the people around them. They're unhappy with their past. They're unhappy with their present. They see no positive future. And so, you know, a lot of the times they are just unhappy people, most times. And very rare do you see somebody who is very successful, very happy, that is very anxious. Very rare. So that's why we have to at all times. If somebody is in the midst of an attack, then obviously it's very hard to say to them, you know, what I'm saying right now. We do have to work through them and do exactly like what you said. Don't worry, it will pass. just breathe, because they're in the middle of the attack. But before the attacks, if they are an anxious person, it's always best to tell them, okay, do 3 things today in your life that you're going to feel very proud of. Do 3 things, even if it's just writing in a diary. Do it. 3 things that make you feel good about yourself. And once they feel better about themselves, that feeling of anxiety really goes away. It's just about being productive. Mm-hmm.
But what if you're positive and like you just don't care about anything and you still get like anxiety attacks?
It's usually about
people around you.
right. It's the things that are happening in your environment. Right. It's about the things that are happening in your environment that's making you anxious. So it's just things that you feel are unstable. Once those things become stable, you'll be fine.
Can I say or ask a question?
Sure.
I wake up almost every night with anxiety, and Jason can't understand it. He's like, what? If my house is a mess, I cannot sleep. He's like, okay, babe, it's time to go to bed. I'm like, okay. Let me tidy these dishes, fluff the pillows on the couch, I'll fluff the dino on the stairs, like, and I do all these things. But I will wake up, I can't sleep, like you're saying, you're tossing and turning. And obviously, 2 boys, like the house, most days looks like a tornado rips through it. But before I go to bed, it has to all be back into place. And the days that I don't get everything put back into place, I can't sleep. And I try to explain to Jason and his sister, and they're just like, you're crazy, like you have OCD, like something's wrong with you. But I get so anxious about it that like I'll wake up. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm up, I gotta clean. I didn't get all the dishes put away, like the kids are gonna, and I faint a lot. And I remember one time like coming back from fainting, like I had started throwing up and Jason didn't know what to do, he called the ambulance. So I had these paramedics come to get me in the bedroom and the house was unkept when they came. And I was always like, what's gonna happen? I was like, I don't know, they're gonna have to call 911, they're gonna come in, they're gonna see my house is a mess, they're gonna judge me. And then I have this fear of judgment, which is, I feel, is what keeps me up at night if my house isn't kept. I'm always afraid, like, worst case scenario, something's gonna happen. I'm gonna call 911, the paramedics are gonna come here, the house, they're gonna see dinky cars everywhere, lights everywhere.
But what's so wrong with that if they see
It's
that?
this big, even like I'm trembling thinking, like I just have this big fear. But I also get anxious about other things, like I know when my mom's mad at me, whether she calls me, I get this feeling, my mom's looking for me, she's not too happy with me, I just know. Or on Thursday. So I get like 3 different types of anxiety. So 1, if my house is not kept, I cannot sleep that night. Number 2, I know when my mom is looking for me, I know when my mom's thinking about me, I just get this feeling like, uh-oh, this is not good.
That's very interesting because that's twofold. That's very multi-folded. So with the cleanliness, that is important. Your spirit is an organized type of spirit. Your mind likes things to be in order. Not that you're controlling, but you like things to be compartmentalized, and that's also the Capricorn in you, authoritative, right? So that's really not a bad anxiety. I would say to yourself, just make a plan to say, you know what, Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's okay if the house is messy. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm going to do my best to keep up with it before I go to bed. And if I don't, then that's okay. Monday, that's okay because tomorrow's Tuesday, I'm allowed to investigate tomorrow, right? So I would say, give yourself, like there's 7 days in the week, not even 2, give 3 days out of the week where you're gonna say, I'm allowed to have a messy moment those days. And also take your mind a little bit further, you're not a hoarder, and there's no way that your house will ever be judged because these people go into homes, ambulances and stuff, they go into homes, which is like
Serious places.
food like on the floor. Oh my gosh, I had a neighbor before, and I'm not judging her, and her whole place was horrible. And I didn't judge her, right? I just realized she just doesn't like a clean home. She doesn't mind walking through. They would throw paper on the floor. Her kids would have paper on the floor, like just all over everywhere. And yeah, and so and she was comfortable with it, right? And I'm not talking about toys, but that is fine. 3 days out of the week, say to yourself, and I understand where you're coming from with that, because if I have a lot of dust on my table or whatever from like, you know, if I had a friend over the night before and we're talking or whatever and we have something on the table, I have to have it clean. So I understand where you're coming from with that. Cleanliness is next to godliness. That's a spiritual thing. So that's where it's multifolded. The children now, that I'm I'm sorry to tell you, it's not gonna change until they are older. At all, you got 2 boys and a girl
Protective
now, the
mothering
younger one.
in you.
It's not ever going to stop. It just won't. My daughter is 23. It's when you leave the nest, when you feel like, oof, she left the nest, so I'm cool. I didn't think about her when I was in Cuba. I just thought about when I was on a fire. You know, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get her this, she'll like that. But my son, he's out later than 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm calling his cell phone, where are you? And he's 18, almost 19 years old. I was 17 when I had a child. And who am I to dictate to him what he's supposed to be doing? But it doesn't change, it never goes away. That's the child thing. You're very protective, you are a mom, you don't want your boys on the highway, you don't want anything happening. That's a natural fear. That completely is normal. And when you say you don't feel completely happy, again, it's because you're raising a family right now, and you still have a 10-month-old. That's almost newbornish to me, having children so much older, you know, and that is another fear. She's going to turn 12, 13, like you are today. I know I'm going to get to you and sing happy birthday, but she's going to get that age, and then that's when the real anxiety starts.
Oh, it's starting for me already.
That's when they start talking back.
Yeah, it's okay now. You're worried about them bumping their head or something.
I
Yeah.
don't talk back.
No, but you're going to a
Yeah,
concert
she-
tomorrow.
Yeah. According to her, she's defending herself.
Right.
is.
Yours is not anxiety. It's so natural what is happening around you, and it's just a matter of trying to keep things cool and balanced. You know, and life is about balance. And you know, I would say again, my best advice there is just take 3 days out the week and say to yourself, it's okay if I have, let's say Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And then that way Sunday you clean up before Monday, and then Monday.
When you do come on Tuesday,
Yeah.
like, you gotta help, grab the room, get them off, like, you gotta help,
Right.
like, tomorrow's Monday, I can never start a Monday with the health dirty for sure. Like, that's,
Good,
I don't know, I'm kind of weird probably.
In the
but that's
Bible,
my
no,
advice.
in the
We're all
Bible it
like that.
says,
We're all
yeah, in the Bible it
That's
says
right.
cleansing
He's on the
is
gross
the
I was gonna bring up-
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you very much for today. We thank you very much for your grace and for your glory. Father, your mercy is beautiful, and we just ask you to help us have that mercy upon ourselves when we go through anxious times. We have to draw upon you, draw upon your teachings, draw upon that the fact exists. When we are feeling anxious, you are there to rest. Put everything to rest and help us to remember that nothing could be worse than the fear that we're putting ourselves through. There's a saying that says, fear is all that we're afraid of. And as long as there is no fear, and we have courage, then we know we have you. Help us to walk in your way, to talk your language, and to understand that every anxious moment is not necessarily something that is helping us, and it's best for us to put it aside and let it rest and know that this too shall pass. We love you, we thank you, we live you, we honor you. Thank you, Father. Amen.
Amen.